Okay, in this project I'm going to use the new tools in Quickdraw version 5.3 to create a triple weave blackout curtain. And each layer I'm going to do is a point twill. So the first thing I'm going to start with is let me go open from the program files directory. I'm going to go down and open the multi-layer structure library. And when I look at the structure library, there's a number of things available to me. And I could potentially just use the triple weave structure here if I wanted to just use tabby on each one of the three layers. You can physically see the tabby options there. If I go down, I also have a 4-point tabby here. So what I'm going to actually do is do the middle layer in black tabby to minimize the number of layers, and then the front and rear boxes in the equivalent of a double weave that I'm going to do in point twills going one direction or another. So the first thing I need to do is create the structure diagrams. Let me show you how these two figures were created that show you the diagonal twill, tabby, diagonal twill structure versus the opposite sequence. So let me first grab the tabby. So I grab the tabby, and I'm going to copy that to structure B, so I'll put it in the middle. I'm going to need 3 structures, so I increase it by 1. I'm going to grab one of the 2 twills, copy that into structure A, copy the other twill into structure C. So I now have the 3 weave structures that I want to merge into my structures. So let me talk about how to create these. The layer sequence tool here is how those were created. So let me go back to a new untitled window and go to the grid. And you'll notice the copy structures, when I do a mouse over them, it's still showing me how big those structures are. So now when I ask for a layer sequence, I want to go to a new window. When I do stack, it will create that figure for me, which is those 3 structures in that order. So now what I'm going to actually do, copy that with a little bit of margin, hit the middle of the copy box, and now I've got a tool I can paste. When I go back to the structure library, if I actually paste that in, you'll see that's where that figure came from, so I don't really want to modify that. But I would create that. What I'd suggest is create a new file, paste that into it, create your own templates. When I go back to the window template, now what I want to do is in the opposite order. So I can change the drag sequences here. So it's now CBA, so I've got the other sequence. And when I hit the stack command, it's immediately going to change that. So I've now got a new structure diagram. Copy that. And I would paste that into your own structure library. If I look at what it's pasted there, that's actually where that figure came from. So now I can use that tool to create any kind of structure in any number of layers in any sequence. So now what I really want to do is use those to create my project. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And so the copy structures A, B, and C I no longer need, so I'm actually going to go back and kind of just delete that to 2 structures. So what I'm going to do is copy this sequence as structure A, and you'll notice it's now a 12 by 12 if you watch that line when I mouse over it. And when I do this one, I've got a different 12 by 12, copy that to B. Now when I go back over to a new window, you can clear the grid. And what I actually want to do is now I want to create the profile for my curtains. So I'm just going to do a simple checkerboard. So in that checkerboard, one part of the checker is going to be one diagonal on the twill, the other diagonal on the surface, the opposite on the back, with a black middle when I'm done. So I've now got those 3. I've got the structures I want to substitute. So when I hit the thread sub, it's going to go through, and I've now got that structure diagram. So now what I want to do is take that, and I can see it's 21 shafts required, so I actually don't have a loom that'll do that, but it's a nice thing about software, I don't care. So when I go back over, I'm going to export that. Go back to the main warp weft editor. Okay, so I've now got the pattern. I need to add a warp. I need to color it so that I can see something a little bit more. And let me go through. I'm going to do one layer in dark red, light red for warp and weft. The other layer I'm going to do in a dark blue and a light blue for the warp and weft respectively. And then instead of black, I'm going to use, I'll use black and a darker gray as another color. So that's now got me the color sequences I want to work to. So now the color sequence 1 would be on the right, so I'll make the one red. So I'm going to start out with a blue warp. I drag the blue to a warp color. I'm going to then use the black as the second color, and then use the bright red. So when I do that rotation, I've now got the warp set up. When I ask for the weft, the red is going to be first. So I'm going to start with the pink. I'm going to then add the darker gray I just added and the lighter blue. So I've now got the warp and weft rotation. When I zoom out, I can see that it looks about right. So I would actually save that guy now. I'm going to call that triple blackout curtains. Now, in order to physically see that, you'll notice if you zoom way in, I can see the red threads. I can, the blue shows through a lot. I can see the black in there. A little harder to see it. If I actually look for view finished, it gets garbled, because what it's actually looking at is with this complex pattern, when it looks for all the deflected threads, it's seeing a lot of patterns that are confusing it. That's why I've actually added the extensions to the choices. So if I tell it as multi-layer, it's now looking at the float lengths, and it determines that yes, that actually does look like what I want for my patterns. And if I look close, I can see the diagonals in the twill running down that way, and I can see them in the weft going the other direction. So that gives me those guys. Now, if I want the other view may want to look at here, if I look for a multi-layer cloth, this is a 3-layer cloth. So I've now got all the red threads on the front, the blue threads in the back, and the black threads in the middle. And you'll notice the confusion over here, and actually in this side of the pattern, if I grab those guys with my green arrow, the order is different. So what I'm actually going to do is reverse the order of these guys. So now I can actually see a surface layer here, and as that goes to the back layer over here, and as I hit next shots, and again, the weft colors here are not actually the weft colors, it just shows me the sequencing. So I can see the layers forming. I mean, this code has some problem trying to follow the edges, so I'm not too worried about that. It knows it needs to be below that thread, which it is. And as I continue to throw shots, I'm going to see those 3 layers forming clear pockets between. So I definitely have the 3 layers I wanted. So this would be the black layer for the blackout, the 2 twill layers, and I can actually see, you'll notice the structure here, every other thread is a straight tabby. Over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2. So there's my twills, and the colors changed one to the next. So I've seen all 4 of the combinations for the twill. The same on the upper layer. As I go back a little bit, I can actually see those forms. It hasn't formed the 4th version there. So that gives me the ability to physically see those 3 shafts. I can tell, it's part of the reason there's some confusion where the edges are. You can see where the threads cross in the middle there. There's a lot going on. But I can definitely see the 3 layers I was looking for. And when I go back in and look at the views, I can see the pattern. If I do the backside view, I'd see the other side of that. View, the reverse view of the fabric, I can see that it looks about the same as it's when you reverse it with the twills, you end up with about the same thing on both sides. Thank you.